Well, welcome to Detroit in Black and White, Downriver. We at we usually be at Ramsey's and Johnny and Mia, but here we are. Uh, Jim Nardoni, how you doing?
Good afternoon, evening, I should say.
Uh, Alan Langle from Deadline Detroit.
Good evening.
Eric Brown, a contributor. How you doing, Eric?
I'm all right.
Uh, okay, let's start off, Jim, because I wanted to talk about this. This was a story. Uh, it's a bridge controversy. And you know what? It seemed like bridges is always getting into the news. We got a new bridge, a Gordie Howe Bridge, that's coming in Detroit. And I remember several years ago, the bridge that collapsed in Minneapolis and stuff. And a lot of people don't like to drive across bridges because they don't think they're safe. What's happening in Grosse Hill?
So they put it on the ballot, $59 million to buy the current toll bridge, which is at the north end of the island. And that's all well and good. About 75 to 80% of the people that travel back and forth to Grosse Hill travel on the Wayne County Bridge, which is the free bridge. It doesn't cost a dime to cross. But I guess to back up, because it's closed, the Wayne County Bridge has been closed a lot. They just secured funding. Jamie Churches and the state senator, I can't think of his name right now, $20 million to service the Wayne County Bridge. The Wayne County Bridge was built, I think, in the late 20s. The toll bridge that they want to spend the $59 million was built in 1913, so it's over 110 years old.
So is that bridge safe? Do you drive over that bridge? You downriver and Trent?
I do drive over it whenever the other bridge is closed. Is about the only time. And
what does that cost for a toll?
I think it's about $4.50. $4,
Wow.
$4.50. But it's round trip. You pay on one side, just like a lot of bridges.
Uh-huh.
It's privately owned. They're both swing bridges.
So who owned the bridge?
Well, it's the family of the guy that originally built the bridge. It's like his great grandson that owns the bridge now, and he's trying to sell it.
Okay. Well, you know, I always thought Matty Maroon was the only person that owned the bridge.
Adolph, you're on mute. Adolph is on mute.
Why am I on mute, man?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, go ahead, Alan.
No, I was going to say, it's interesting, the Gordie Howe Bridge. It's an interesting deal they had where Canada says, we're going to build the bridge, don't worry about it, the U.S., but they're going to collect all the tolls, and I think ultimately Canada is going to make out financially better off than the U.S. for doing it for free, but up front, it's a good deal for the U.S.
Well, no, but the bridge originally, that the Vassar Bridge was all part of this new bridge with Granholm and stuff, and they had a deal where Matty Maroon and them was going to be the manager of that bridge, but greedy ass Granholm and her husband and James Blanchard and them, they cut another deal, and they cut out Matty Maroon and them. So so that's why Matty Maroon, he spent millions of dollars to block the bridge, and it took about 9-10 years before they got it. So here we are. Eric, you was gonna say something.
Which bridge you talking about? The new bridge, Adolph, or
no, the new bridge, the Gordie Howe Bridge, which over in Canada, when they bought out all the property over in Canada to build a new bridge, they paid these folks $50,000 to $100,000 to take their property. In Detroit, they gave them $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 over in Southwest Detroit. So that tells you what the deal was.
Well, let me ask you, Adolph. You would have a question. This Matty Maroon was not a popular figure in Detroit. Did that have something to do with how he got kind of sideswiped.
No, Matty Maroon was a good guy. Done a lot of stuff. People beat him up, but he spent a lot of money. He helped folks and stuff. Listen, this is a capitalist system. Matty Maroon and his father made a lot of money. They worked hard. I ain't mad at him. When he bought Ambassador Bridge, it was a private owned bridge that business people built back in the 20s during Prohibition, before Prohibition. And when it went bankrupt, Warren Buffett tried to buy it. The Canadian government didn't want it. The U.S. didn't want it. Matty Maroon, he got it. So why you get? And I don't understand why people got mad because Matty Maroon owned the bridge. The guy worked hard, and you know what? There it was. They own a bridge. Nobody wanted it. Now, when he made some money, now everybody got pissed off. Just like the people that own the bridge in Grosse Ile, the toll bridge. Are you mad at them, Jim?
I'm not mad at them. All American. I wanted to say All American is chatting in with us today. Thank you to everybody that's watching today. A special thanks to the people over at Victory. Jan and the crew over there is watching us from in Brownstown around here downriver. Here's the situation. The city of Trenton wanted to buy the McLeod Steel site. It was available at the land bank for $4 million. They had the money to come up with it, right? It cost 20 plus 25, $30 million to clean that site. So the question I have, you're going to pay $59 million to buy the bridge, the township is, and where are they going to get the money when it needs work? So if it's 10, it costs 10, 20, 15, $30 million for bridge repair. So on paper, the residents are only got to pay maybe $150 to $250 a year. Is passage going to be free for them, or are they still going to have to pay? And who's going to pay for the repairs? Because it will be significant.
Let me ask this question. We drive all over the country and stuff, Eric, Alan, and Jim. Are you afraid to drive across a bridge wherever you come at? Eric, are you just drive across a bridge, or do you think is this bridge safe?
No, I've never had any problem driving across bridges. I mean, I'm more worried about that damn tunnel, but I've never had a problem. I mean, if I get to a bridge, I just drive across it. I don't give it a second thought.
I'd say driving across the Mackinac, I'm not afraid structurally, but sometimes when the wind's blowing and stuff, it's a little bit scary.
What about Alan? You lived over in D.C. area. You ever drove across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge?
I'm trying to think. I probably had, but I've also
that's a scary bridge, or the Skyway Bridge in Sarasota, Florida. That these bridges is a Jim. You drive that.
We got the Zilwaukee Bridge up north,
right? Jim, you drove down Florida. Have you drove across that bridge?
I can tell you this: the previous Sunshine Skyway, I was a kid driving to Florida for my senior trip, and I just about stopped dead on. It looked like you were driving to the sky. The lights scared the heck out of me, especially after being on the road for like 18 or 20 hours, whatever it was. I was scared. I can tell you that.
Because I drove across that bridge heading into Tampa, Florida, and it was a storm, and that was one of the scariest experiences that I've ever had. You know, it was a bunch of frat brothers. We were down there for a get together. We went to a Tampa Bay. We drove from Orlando to Tampa Bay to go to a Yankees Tampa Bay game. But driving across that bridge was probably one of the most scary. And I was driving, one of the most scariest experiences that I've ever had going across a bridge.
I drove across a bridge in Charleston, South Carolina with my wife. It was 3:00 in the morning, and my the light in my car came on. I was like, "Oh shit, we on the bridge. What is going on?" Come to find out that the gas tank container, whatever, was open. But the bottom line is driving across the bridge, 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden the engine light comes on, and then we got this bridge to go out. You know what? The bridge can be scary. I don't care about the tunnels. I can drive through a tunnel all the time, but I thought it was people that they fighting over in Grosse Ile about whether or not we need a new bridge and all this other stuff. Listen, Grosse Ile, if they don't have a bridge, then they're gonna complain about, oh, we losing money and all this other stuff. Jim, you know that. You
There were a
know.
lot of complaints. People had to pay for a year and a half last time, and at $5 a day, it's a lot of money.
Man, there's no question, whatever. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and talk about sports and politics. Because Eric, and I'm going to come back to you because you were the defender of Colin Kaepernick when nobody else was defending him. Am I correct?
Correct, and I still do not watch NFL.
Okay, fine. We'll come back. Let's take a break.
Neighborhood beautification. That's very important to Detroit. It's very important to block clubs, organizations, and people who live in the community. We got started with 2 lots and a vision of a treehouse center. Because if we can take these blighted lots, Detroit give us grants to be able to do something with them that the community wants, it's a plus because we're bringing our neighborhoods back to where we want them to be, where they should be. All because I live in Detroit.
Okay, we're back with Eric Brown, Alan Lango, and Jim Nardoni. Listen, I was reading some articles where Bruce Pearl, the basketball coach, head basketball coach at Auburn, he's tweeting all this stuff. He hates Kamala Harris. He beating up on folks. He loved Trump. All this shit, and he's against woke folks, but most of the folks on the basketball team are black. I look at Tommy Tuberville, who's the senator from Alabama, who was the coach of Auburn and some other schools, who coach black players, who says now that black folks, he's against affirmative action. Black folks is too woke, etc. Eric, I'm gonna go to you. You stood by Colin Kaepernick when he says, "I'm not standing up for the national anthem," etc. Do politics belong into sports?
The Colin Kaepernick was a different situation, in my opinion, when it comes to politics. I think that was a civil rights issue on his point. But when you look at the Tubervilles, the Bruce Pearls, and there have been others that have said some ridiculous statements, I think they go beyond the level of what makes sense. Because at the end of the day, how can you say, as a basketball coach, and as a football coach, when the majority of your players are black, that affirmative action does not matter? You take those black players away, then we will never be successful. But it's amazing how they pick and choose things that they want to support, and they fail to realize that lack of support from a certain demographic group will be their downfall. And that's one of the reasons why I respect Pat Riley so much. You know, for those that may not remember, when Texas A&I played Kentucky, when they did not want to have black players playing in the NCAA tournament, and Kentucky did not have any black players, Pat Riley was the only player on the University of Kentucky that time that shook all the players from Texas A&I hand. And I've had much respect for Pat Riley throughout his career, and he's done a lot when he was in LA Lakers as well as the Miami Heat now.
Alan, your take on that?
You know, I mean, it's interesting. I think that I think players, coaches should be able to express their political opinions. The problem is, I don't know how good it is for the sport, but I see people here who have a high profile who want to take advantage of that. They want their info. LeBron James, different people, Kerr, speaking up. I mean, the problem is if they start talking, saying political stuff that's you're not in favor of, you may say, screw that team. He's a whatever. He's a Trumper. He's for Kamala. Whatever it is. I mean, it sort of makes the sport more toxic. But at the same time, I don't think those people should have to be silent.
But you know what? Before I come to Jim, but I want to go back. There was a baseball player for the Chicago Cubs back in 1932-33. He got interviewed, and I can't think of his name. He got interviewed on a radio show, and they said, "What did you do all season?" He said, "I was a policeman in Dayton, Ohio, and I was cracking niggers' heads." Even then, he got beat up. The NAACP and the commissioner of baseball, who was a bigot, they had to deal with it. So it always been some issues with racism in sports. Jim, your thing, what's your take on politics and sports?
Well, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but you're representing an organization. That's where it gets tricky. So let's talk about this Trump rally up in the northern suburbs, one of our townships north of Detroit here. The police department had Donald Trump. I guess he had a rally.
That was Howell, Michigan, Livingston County.
No, not Howell, Michigan.
Right.
Up one of the townships north of
Okay,
here.
good.
He showed up
Okay,
at the police
good.
department, so he stood outside. I'll look it up, but I forget
Two places, Jim. It was Howe as well as another township, but I think where you're going, situation in both places.
Right.
Go
This is
ahead,
where that
go ahead,
police chief
Jeff.
got in the Robert Shalit or whatever his name is got in trouble up there.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever it is, Clinton Township, maybe one of the townships. I don't want to misspeak, but anyway, the police were there, and there's a real fine line between representing a political campaign. A police officer that's not elected does not have the right to do that. That would be a campaign violation. So if sheriffs have been allowed to do this because they're elected and they're allowed to they're allowed to endorse, but a regular police department, I think that's a fine line. So my point is, if you're representing yourself, you want to go to a Trump campaign, by all means. But if you're representing a police department, it's just improper.
Let me say this: when Jim Caldwell was the coach of the Lions, and he was successful, and they fired him, and they hired Dan Campbell. I heard all kind of stuff. It became a racial situation. Did you hear that, Eric?
Yeah, it was somebody else before Dan Campbell. I forgot who it was before. It was Dan Campbell because when the old regime,
Jim Caldwell, yes.
Yeah, Jim Caldwell, but it was somebody else between Jim Caldwell and Dan Campbell. I forgot who it was. But yeah, there was a lot of racial overtones with regards to the way they let go of Jim Caldwell, because as you said, he was, pretty much successful while he was here and did not give him an opportunity. Yes, I knew a new general manager is usually going to bring his own people in, but you still fired someone that was successful. You bring someone else in that was very unsuccessful. So, yeah, I mean, people looked at it not just as a bad fire and a bad hire, but people looked at it as a racial situation.
Well, Alan, we look at what happened up in Michigan State. Your alma mater, with Mel Tucker.
Right.
People saying that he got screwed. Do you think he got screwed?
I think so. Well, from what I saw or read about it, I mean, it sounded like this woman, they had a consensual like conversations, and then she was coming on to him, and he says he was just, I think he was kind of shocked by it. I don't know all the circumstances, but it sounded like he may have been gotten screwed in that situation. I mean, on the other hand, the university feels like they have to uphold a certain standard, and so, but it sounded like it wasn't as clear cut as the university was trying to make it out.
Well, Jim, I'm gonna go to you. You're a Lions, Slappy.
Sure.
First-
Lions gonna go to Super Bowl.
Perhaps. First, my apologies to Clinton Township. Shelby Township is where they had the rally. I think that the Lions do have a good chance to get to the Super Bowl. This would be the first time that I believe they had a good chance. I guess they did last year, but there's a lot of things that have to happen. It's a long season, and for people to be assuming that they're going to end up in the Super Bowl, they might be disappointed.
Well, Sports Illustrated picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
There's a lot of great teams. The Ravens are a great team. Our whole division is, the Packers look good.
You got Chicago, based on news reports, Chicago, Minnesota, and Green Bay. So all four teams can go to the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting. But I want to get back to one point, because I think that I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Angel Reese situation, the Chicago Sky basketball player. All she did was, when she was asked a question about Kamala Harris, she said, I need to do my research. She didn't say she was supporting Kamala Harris. She just said, I need to do my research and I'll make a decision then. And then she got all this backlash for not just saying I'm supporting her. So, the media can't.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when LeBron James came into to the NBA, and there was a conflict in the Sudan. At the end, Sudan became South Sudan and Sudan. And somebody asked LeBron James about the conflict in Sudan, because Manute Boyd, the late Manute Boyd, he was from the Sudan, and LeBron said, I don't know what that is and stuff, and they beat him up. Not the average person know about the conflicts on the continent of Africa or in Europe and all that. So I ain't mad at Angel Reese. Listen, Lango and me, we used to write for the newspapers, etc. And nowadays, when you got all these podcasts, it looks like we got a podcast, and you got all these talk shows, everybody need a story. That's the way it is. Alan.
Well, I don't know what to say. What's the question?
The question is, do we just throw these questions out at these athletes and draw them into political situations? That's what Erica was saying.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's sometimes, they're just trying to, suddenly you say the wrong thing. I mean, it's under with social media these days, there's a million, one thing I learned writing online is that no matter, you could write the most benign, happy story, and there's someone who's going to go, fuck you. Or, I did a thing about a restaurant in Detroit near the Fox Theater, and I went in to get carry out, and they had a little sign there that said, $100 bills. We've been getting, fake $100 counterfeit bills. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. I took a picture, I put it on Facebook, and I was just sort of as an educational thing and an interesting thing. And somebody wrote, well, fuck that place. They won't take $100 bills, but they'll take fake credit cards, and going on. And then the owner starts going, fuck Deadline Detroit, trying to fuck over our business. And I'm like, yeah, so things spin out of control easily, and particularly when they're high profile people are just looking to dig in and stuff. I think it's sometimes ridiculous what we've created on the internet, on X and Instagram, and people people are commenting on whatever, and you know, it gets toxic.
Well, Jim, as we come to a close, do athletes and sports teams need to be involved in politics as Jerry Jones over at Dallas? They found a picture of him during the Little Rock Nine, where he was a high school student and he was doing his thing. So do we need to have athletes doing that kind of bullshit?
First off, thanks to Henry for tuning in today. We know that Henry's among the living, so that's a good sign.
Well, fuck Henry.
Well, here's the thing. I go back to you can support whoever you want. I think it was Michael Jordan that said that Republicans buy sneakers too. So he was smart enough to walk that line.
No, he was. Well, but then and people he had on his team was smart. I fuck Michael Jordan too. Shit. You know what? So
I think that they sometimes hurt. I think to Alan's point, I think sometimes they hurt themselves more, especially when they don't have as much information that they might need before they take a position.
Right, no question about it. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate. Here we are on Wednesday. Eric Brown, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Your final thought.
My final thoughts is I'm not sure if you saw the Connor Stallions documentary, but the NCAA is full of shit. I just leave it at that.
Okay, Alan, your final thought.
I just want to remind everyone the Jazz Fest this weekend in Detroit and the Labor Day Parade, where I'm assuming Kamala Harris is going to be there. So,
okay, Jim Nardoni.
I just wanted to say thanks to everybody that's tuning in. Not everybody makes comments, but I know they're out there watching, and we're grateful for them to be watching, and they can participate anytime they like. We're glad to have them.
And you know what? And I really appreciate everybody. My final thought, I can't wait to the debate with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I went to the convention. There was a lot of people. There was a lot of Republicans there. Alan, your cousin, My Pillow guy was there, and everybody else. You know what? It was interesting. I liked it. I didn't like it. But it was interesting, and we'll see how this played out.
You met some.
One more thing. Oh, go ahead.
You met some interesting Karens there. Right?
Yeah, and no question. Go ahead.
Off, you know, the M-STEP scores were released today, and as per usual, the urban community and underserved and economically disadvantaged communities, the scores were pathetic. We got to get our shit together as a people.
Ain't no question, and you're absolutely right. And we'll be back Saturday at McShane's. We're going to have Bob Roberts, Sheila Cockrell, and Christine Caramo. She got arrested. They kicked her ass out of the Republican convention. I want to know what happened. See you Saturday.
All right.